Hello, good evening, and welcome to Spring Global on Western Spring Television. Now the headlines. Senator Samuel Anyanwu emerges as Imo State PDP governorship candidate. U.S. President Joe Biden praises the signing of the Good Friday Agreement that ended violence in Northern Ireland. U.S. police releases body cam footage of Monday's fatal shootout in the state of Kentucky. My name is Femi Olanipeku. Now the news in detail. We begin here in Nigeria, where the National Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Senator Samuel Anyanwu, has emerged as the party's governorship candidate for the November 11 Imo State governorship election. This followed the party's primary held today at the PDP's state secretariat along the Okigwe Road in Owerri, the Imo State capital. Off-cycle governorship elections are expected to hold in Bayelsa, Kogi, and Imo State on November 11, 2023. While the former governor of the state, Emeka Ihedioha, was conspicuously absent at the primaries, Mr. Ihedioha had weeks ago pulled out from the PDP governorship race. And while the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja has set aside the ward and local government congresses purportedly conducted on February 7 by the All Progressives Congress APC in Kogi State, the congresses were for the purpose of nominating APC's governorship candidate for the November 11 gubernatorial polls. The presiding Judge, Justice James Omotosho, avoided the two congresses on the grounds that they were not conducted in compliance with the Electoral Act 2022 and the party's constitution. Justice Omotosho also barred the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) from according recognition to the unlawful delegates list that emanated from the unlawful congresses. And outside of Nigeria, 10 people trying to reach Europe have drowned off the coast of Tunisia after their boat was wrecked at sea. Coast Guards say 72 of those on board, all of who were from sub-Saharan Africa, were rescued near the port city of Sfax. Tunisia has taken over from Libya as the main departure point from people fleeing poverty and conflict in Africa and the Middle East. Tunisia National Guard says 14,000 migrants have been rescued in the first 3 months of the year, 5 times more than in the same period last year. In the meantime, Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa has accepted an invitation to attend King Charles III's coronation, which will take place on the 6th of May at Westminster Abbey in London. The UK ambassador to Zimbabwe, Melanie Robinson, met with the president yesterday in the capital of Harare to discuss about the coronation. And during the meeting, issues bordering trade, investments, projects, and the importance of the peaceful, free and fair elections later this year were discussed. Ms. Robinson, speaking after the meeting, said the president was invited and has accepted the invitation and will travel to London for the ceremony. UK's relationship with Zimbabwe soared following land reforms implemented during the tenure of former long-time ruler Robert Mugabe. And outside Africa, U.S. President Joe Biden has praised the signing of the landmark Good Friday Agreement that ended the violence in Northern Ireland 25 years ago this week. President Biden made this known in his speech at the Ulster University in Belfast, noting that the Northern Ireland was transformed and made whole by the peace deal. He pledged that the U.S. will continue to be Northern Ireland's partner in building the future that the young people of the world deserve. Mr. Biden explained in his speech that there is a large population in the U.S. that cares about what happens in Northern Ireland. President Biden had earlier met with party leaders in Northern Ireland after holding a meeting with UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak this morning. After the speech, President Biden left Belfast, heading to the Republic of Ireland, where he's expected to meet with the Republic's president. And staying with the UK, the Scottish government is to launch a legal challenge to Westminster's block on its controversial gender reforms. The proposals, which would allow people in Scotland to self-identify their sex, were passed by the Scottish Parliament December last year, but they were blocked by the UK government over their potential impact on UK-wide equality laws. However, Scotland's Social Justice Secretary Shirley Ann Somerville said a block by the UK government was unprecedented challenge to the Scottish Parliament's ability to legislate on clearly devolved matters. Ms. Somerville added that to uphold the democratic decision of the Parliament, Scottish ministers will lodge a petition for judicial review of the Secretary of State's decision. The bill was passed by an overwhelming majority of the Scottish Parliament with support from members of all parties. And moving on, protesters disrupted French President Emmanuel Macron's speech in the Netherlands about Europe's future as he faces mass protests over pension reform back home. Security officials today detained the demonstrator who shouted at Mr. Macron outside Amsterdam University during the French president's state visits to the Netherlands. France's leader is confronting the biggest challenge of his second term after pushing through his flagship pension overhaul, which includes raising the retirement age from 62 years to 64. After security guards removed the protesters, Mr. Macron said people would try to undermine laws passed by elected governments, puts democracy at risk, citing the 2021 U.S. Capitol riot and the 2023 attack on the Brazilian Congress. Mr. Macron's visit to the Netherlands was also clouded by a row over controversial comments he made about Taiwan when he urged Europe not to follow U.S. or China policy when it comes to Taipei.
What can you say when you talk about Europe?
Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I have to say that I do admire Nexus Institute, what you do and how much you delivered such strong messages, not just for Europe, but for humanity and our common values. Hello.
I think we lost something. Where is French democracy? Where did we lose it? Where did we lose it?
I can answer this question if you give me some time.
You have millions of people in the streets. Conventions of climate has been put aside. What can you say when you talk about Europe?
Do you allow me to answer? Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I have to say that I do admire Nexus Institute, what you do and how much you delivered such strong messages, not just for Europe, but for humanity and our common values. Hello.
I think we lost something. Where is French democracy? Where did we lose it? Where did we lose it?
I can answer this question if you...
To the Russian-Ukraine war, Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Rybakov says leaked U.S. intelligence documents might be fake and a deliberate attempt to mislead Moscow. Mr. Rybakov disclosed these to Russian news agencies, noting that for now, the leak throws up many questions. He said that since the United States is a party to the conflict, it's possible such things are being done to mislead the Russian Federation. This comes as Serbia dismissed reports that Belgrade agreed to supply arms to Kyiv or has sent them already in the leaked files. Serbian Defense Minister Milos Vucenic in a statement said the intel was untrue, adding that Belgrade will neither sell weapons to the Ukrainian nor Russian side. In the meantime, Ukraine has asked India for more medicines, medical equipment, as well as inviting Indian companies to help rebuild the war-torn country. Ukraine made its request during a 4-day visit to India by First Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister Emine Zaparova, which ended this morning. The Indian Ministry of External Affairs made this known in a statement, adding that Ms. Zaparova handed over a letter from President Volodymyr Zelensky to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Ms. Zaparova's visit was the first by a high-ranking official from Ukraine since Russia launched its invasion of her country in February last year. Ms. Zaparova, in comments to the media during her visit, said Ukraine wanted India to be more involved in helping resolve the conflict and was looking forward to welcoming Prime Minister Modi to Kyiv.
May play a greater role. We respect the decisions of sovereign country, India, to build up relations with other countries. It's about you to decide, it's about you to benefit, it's about you to construct. But the message of Ukraine is that there should be consideration of pragmatic approach. And then being with Russia, and we are again very sincere saying so, is actually being at the wrong side of the history. So kind of supporting Russia and being with Russia means that it is to be in the middle evil visionary picture. I think that your country is now also going through a dynamic change in all of the spheres. India has been actively building up everything, society, economy, like everything. So I think that it might also take some time to build up new relations with Ukraine, and I think that it should be based on a pragmatic and balanced approach.
You're watching Spring Global on Western Spring Television. I'll be right back after this break.
Funmilayo Ransome Kuti was an educationist and advocate of women's rights. She was recognized for her vitriolic comments against colonial policy of taxation as it affected the Nigerian women. Bere, as fondly addressed by her women followers, Funmilayo championed the initiation of universal adult suffrage, which gave an unprecedented leeway for women to contest elective offices and power to exercise voting rights. Married to a foremost educationist and teacher, Israel Oladotun Ransome Kuti, the first president of Nigeria Union of Teachers, Funmilayo Ransome Kuti was the mother of children who inherited her spirit of activism. Olufela and Be Ololari, the former, a renowned musical legend. She was the first female student of Abeokuta Grammar School and the first female to own and drive a car in Nigeria. The award recipient of Member of Order of Nigeria MON and Lenin Peace Prize, was born on 25th October 1900 and was killed on 13th April 1978 by rampaging road soldiers in Lagos. Western Spring Television identifies Funmilayo Ransome Kuti as a watershed character in history. Born Jeremiah Oyeni Obafemi on March 6, 1905, Obafemi Awolowo was a prime architect of Nigeria's independence and most consummate advocate of free education and social welfare in Africa's most populous nation. Erudite politician, thinker and philosopher, Awo was fondly addressed by associates and political colleagues, brought his unique attributes to bear on governance in the defunct Western region. He administered as leader of government business and the premier between 1955 and 1958. Obafemi Awolowo's premiership witnessed pioneering in multi-sectoral policy initiatives and execution. The Western region under his administration paraded several enviable records. first television station in Africa, first real estate in Nigeria, first high-rise building in Nigeria, first modern sports stadium in Nigeria, first agricultural settlement in Nigeria, first modern civil service secretariat in Nigeria, and first industrial estate in Nigeria. His face is on 100 Naira denomination as a mark of honor for his distinguished services to his country. Western Spring Television identifies Obafemi Awolowo as a major character in history.
Thank you for staying with us on Spring Global. Police in the United States state of Kentucky have released body cam footage of fatal shootout between police and a banker who gunned down 5 colleagues in Louisville. The video shows 2 officers getting shot as they advanced towards the lurking gunman. During Monday's attack, 1 officer was hit in the head, while the other suffered a graze wound before killing the suspect. Deputy Police Chief Paul Humphrey said the videos show the officers heroically intervening to save lives. 4 people, including the police officer who was shot in the head, remain in the hospital. Police say the 25-year-old suspect used a legally purchased AR-15 style semi-automatic rifle during the attack, which he live-streamed. In Central America, Mexico has opened criminal proceedings against a top immigration official over a fire that killed 40 migrants last month. Prosecutors say he was negligent in not preventing the disaster, despite earlier indications of problems at the detention centers run by the agency. The decision to file charges against the head of Mexico's National Immigration Institute, Francisco Garduño, was announced yesterday by the Federal Attorney General's office. It followed repeated calls from within Mexico and some Central American nations not to stop the case at the 5 low-level officials, guards, and Venezuelan migrants who are already facing homicide charges in the case. The Attorney General's office, however, added that several other officers of Garduño's agency will also face charges for failing to carry out their duties. In Asia, a firing incident has killed 4 army personnel at a military station in the Indian border state of Punjab. The Indian Army confirmed the incident, adding that a search operation was continuing. According to a defense source, an unknown number of shooters were still at large at a base in Bathinda city. The Army, in a statement, said 4 soldiers died from gunshot injuries sustained during the shootings, which took place early this morning. The statement did not mention the circumstances or other details about who was responsible. Taiwan says it has successfully convinced China to drastically cut its plan to close the airspace north of the island, averting wider travel disruptions. China has not commented on the no-fly zone, but South Korea, which was also briefed on the plan, said it was due to an object falling from a satellite launch vehicle. China initially notified Taipei it would impose a no-fly zone between April 16 to 18, but Taiwan's transport ministry said it was later reduced to a period of just 27 minutes on Sunday morning after it objected. The no-fly zone follows days of intense military drills that was staged around Taiwan in response to President Tsai Ing-wen's meeting with U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy in California last week. In the Middle East, Iran used earthquake relief flights to bring weapons and military equipment into its strategic ally Syria. According to 9 Syrian, Iranian, Israeli, and Western sources, the goal was to buttress Iran's defenses against Israel in Syria and to strengthen Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. After the February 6 earthquake in northern Syria and Turkey, hundreds of flights from Iran began landing in Syria's Aleppo, Damascus, and Latakia airports, bringing supplies, and these went on for 7 weeks. The supplies included advanced communications equipment and radar batteries and spare parts required for a planned upgrade of Syria's Iran-provided air defense system in its civil war. In other news, Twitter boss Elon Musk says running the social media app has been quite painful and a roller coaster. The multi-billionaire entrepreneur also said that he would sell the company if the right person came along. Mr. Musk, in an interview with the BBC, aired live from Twitter headquarters, also covered the mass layoffs, misinformation, and his work habits. Mr. Musk, who also runs car maker Tesla and rocket firm SpaceX, bought Twitter for $44 billion in October. Asked whether he had any regrets about buying the company, the world's second richest man said the pain level has been extremely high.
Do you have any regrets about buying Twitter?
I think it was something that needed to be done. It's been quite difficult, you know. I'd say that the pain level of Twitter has been extremely high. This hasn't been some sort of party, so it's been really quite a stressful situation, you know, for the last several months. Not an easy one. But apart from the pain, I mean, so it's been quite painful. But I think at the end of the day, it should have been done. I think were there many mistakes made along the way? Of course, you know, but you know, all's well that ends well.
Talking sports, Manchester United manager Erik ten Hag has confirmed that both Alejandro Garnacho and Luke Shaw would miss tomorrow's Europa League quarter-final tie at home to Sevilla. Ten Hag made this known during his pre-game press conference, adding that Garnacho injury is more severe, while Shaw is expected back very soon. When queried on the status of Marcus Rashford, Ten Hag said he did not know when the England striker will return. The Manchester United manager further added that English defender Harry Maguire is in contention to start the game.
I think he's for every game. He's in contention because he's a very good player, and we have seen on Saturday how good he is, in the team cohesion. He was doing really well, so he's always in contention. But we have more. I think I'm happy how my team is defending. I think we're defending with 11, and we have a great goalie, and that gives us and brings us so many clean sheets, and we are happy with that. But we have to do it every game. We know that, and we have to keep the discipline in defending and pressing in the defense transition, especially in defending the set plays. And I think we're making good progress, but we have to keep that process going. And because we are not satisfied, we want to do more. And we know if you want to win leagues, if you want to win competitions, clean sheets is also always the base of it.
Meanwhile, Nottingham Forest have sacked sporting director Filippo Giraldi after only 6 months with the club. The Italian joined in October after Forest made a British record 22 signings in the summer, overseeing their January transfer window spending. Forest, who have only won one since January, said Mr. Giraldi left amicably. Last week, owner Evangelos Marinakis said results must improve immediately under manager Steve Cooper. Forest dropped into the Premier League relegation zone on Saturday as a 2-0 defeat at Aston Villa extended their winless run to 9 games. And before we end Spring Global, here is a recap of our top stories. National Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Senator Samuel Anyanwu has emerged as the PDP governorship candidate. U.S. President Joe Biden has praised the signing of the landmark Good Friday Agreement that ended the violence in Northern Ireland 25 years ago this week. And police in the U.S. state of Kentucky have released body cam footage of the fatal shootout between police and a banker who gunned down 5 colleagues in Louisville. You can follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. My name is Femi Olani Pekun. Good evening.